Everyone, is Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. We are getting closer and closer to actual number one starters football. Every single week, they go into these practices getting closer. So we're going to talk about, I got the Tennessee Titans, Minnesota Vikings. Come on now. You guys have seen this. It's the depth chart. It's also the roster. It's also the notes for the game. And I have kind of like some locks that I've seen the past couple of weeks. The rest of this roster, we'll discuss that coming up on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings played the Tennessee Titans. They also had a joint practice week. After that, I kind of I've been flip-flopping these power rankings of receivers. And after these last two games, I'm torn. I'm completely torn. This roster, you really don't know which direction they're going to go. But they have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to town this week. Wednesday, Thursday joint practices, and yet to get another noon kickoff at US Bank Stadium. So I'm looking forward to that. But we're going to talk about the players that I think are an absolute lock. They're on this roster, and then we'll kind of discuss what do some guys need to do to solidify their spot on this roster. Again, I'm Ron Johnson. I'm going to bring my producer to the show, and Sam Ekstrom, but I want everybody to know this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Just visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to make every moment more. Well, as I bring my producer into the show, Sam Ekstrom. Sam, when I at the game, let's be real, it was boring. But then I had to pay attention because I had to do the fan line on K-Fan Radio, which is the official radio home of the Minnesota Vikings. And so when I was on the radio, and you just hear what's going on, and you hear what the fans are saying. One, we spent way too much time at night after a preseason game. So this coming this coming fan line, my goal is to be done in like an hour and 10 minutes. We were there till like almost 12:30, I think. Way too long. But we had a new guy, Robbie Rosenhaus. He's new, so he was trying to do his just best. They gave him a shot. Corey Cove was out. Eric Norquist was out. Hey, Robbie, you have a shot. He went way too long, Sam. He even got a text message from the team like, "Hey, speed this up. It's at this point nobody's listening. It's midnight now and the network is gone." I don't think anybody's on the app on a midnight listening to the fan line worried about the preseason. I will say though, there are some fans that were. One of my neighbors, as I'm walking down the street yesterday, he ran up to me like, "Hey, what was the Chris?" And I know you didn't hear it, Sam, but there was some Chris John drama. Here's what happened: the last caller called me John. So then his name was, I have no idea what his name was, but I just called him Chris. And then I was like, all right, we're done. Next, move on to the next guy. Let's be done with the show. Guy doesn't even know what he's listening to. He's talking about, hey, I got a question for John. I'm like, there's no John here.
Ron John.
Maybe Ron John. Maybe he couldn't get Johnson out. Maybe he was drunk. I don't know. And I didn't
12:30 a.m.
Yeah, I really didn't think about my last name. He could have been trying to say Johnson and it cut out. I don't know. But it was funny. But yeah, 12:30 a.m. Dude was probably drunk. It was a Saturday night. But I appreciate him for listening at least and tuning in. So, what I did was this, Sam, I looked at the roster and I kind of went through some locks. And after these preseason games, it's tough, but you got to make this roster. 53 guys. I'm still confused on this. Like, is it 3 quarterbacks and then the 4th doesn't count? Or is it 2 quarterbacks and then you can have 1 quarterback that doesn't count towards your 53 because the new Brock Purdy rule?
So the quarterbacks all count to your 53, but then remember the game day roster, I believe, is 48.
So that's
you can have
a
49th guy that isn't part of your 48.
That's what was throwing me up. I could not remember what that rule was. So because you get to dress, is it 46 or 49 now?
It recently changed with the pandemic and whatnot. They had more. I thought it was 48, but it used to be 46. So
it used to be 46 when I played,
yeah.
Which still seems like a dumb number. Like, that's not giving you any room for injury or whatever. I remember we went to a game one time with 3 wide receivers. That's how crazy it was.
Wow.
3 wide receivers because we were a running team. And so they wanted to have 3 tight ends. They also wanted to have 4 backs. They had 3 running backs plus a fullback. And they had, I think, 3 or 4 tight ends. We went to a game with 3. Well, we traveled technically with 4 receivers. Our 4th receiver hurt his back during warmups. So it was a Steelers game. I'll never forget. We were warming up, and our 4th receiver is just like, oh, yeah, nope, I can't go. And so Todd Heap, whenever we went 4 wides, Todd Heap had to become our 4th wide receiver for that Steelers game. I remember that because my dad was there. Steelers, we played the Steelers at Pittsburgh, so it was fun it was like my 2nd year in the league. I'd already been there once, but it was just different your 2nd year because you kind of starting to understand the moments. And I think I got like the first big 3rd down catch of the game. But yeah, it's not about me. It's about these guys and their big catches during the game. So here's where I go first with the power rankings, Sam. Speaking of receivers and catches, I kind of had a power rankings and Twitter kind of like people thought it was clickbait. And it wasn't clickbait. It was recency bias is what I call it. I called it my recency bias power rankings for receivers. Yep. And originally my first one was Justin Jefferson 1, of course. KJ Osborne was 2. 3 was Tristan Jackson. That was my recency bias. This was like after his big catches. And then after Tristan Jackson, I then had Jordan Addison. And then I think 5, I had Powell. And then 6, I have to go back to the tweet, but I'm looking at these receivers. I'm trying to get a quick.
I remember you left off.
Oh, Naylor. Yeah, I had
Naylor.
Naylor. I had Naylor. Yeah. I had Naylor at 5. I had Powell at 6, and I left off Rager. Here's kind of my recency bias. I'm going to tweet this out too, but this is my recency bias from this past week. I'm still going to go 1 Justin Jefferson because there's nothing anybody can do to take him off my number 1. So Justin Jefferson 1. I'm still going to stick with KJ Osborne 2 because, again, he's having a good camp. Solid, nothing glaring. It was like, oh, my God, he's making mistakes. 3, I'm still going to go Tristan Jackson. Like Tristan Jackson to me is there. 4, I'm still going to go Jordan Addison. Nobody's done it. Now, he is in the concussion protocol. That's sad. That's tough because you don't know what's going to happen. But here's where I go, Sam. 5 is Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, after the last 2 preseason games, has shown he's learned. He's had a full offseason to learn this offense. Maybe this offense fits him better than the Eagles. Jalen Reagor has the speed that Jalen Naylor might end up on the IR, which is only 6 weeks. Now, people, this is not the season ending. But with a high ankle sprain, if he can't go week 1, maybe he's on IR. But I'm going to go Reagor at 5. And then at 6, honestly, at this point, I got to put a question mark because I feel like Jalen Naylor should be 6. Brandon Powell didn't do anything in the last game to really throw it out there, but those are my 5 at least. I think Naylor makes his team. So that's my 6 right there with Naylor. Like I'm going off a recency bias, but also I feel like some of these guys, there's other guys haven't done enough to upseat, get them out their spot. Those are my 6. Here's some locks that we talked about. Yeah. But first, what do you think about that? Like where are you with your 6 receivers?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. Tristan Jackson makes plays every time he's on the field, and I think he's deserving. The problem is that Reagor, as you noticed, he's been having a better camp than I think a lot of us might have expected, and he's done well in both the games.
Yeah.
But you can't keep all 7. So at some point, you got to choose between, let's say you keep 6. You got to choose between Powell, Reagor, and Jackson. Keep 2. So I would rather keep Powell and Tristan and drop Reagor. I just think even though he's improved, I still think you get him 1 year, his contract is up, he's a little older. Like I'd rather have the younger Tristan Jackson. He's got upside. So give me Tristan. He's been great.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. If you get Tristan Jackson, I think Tristan Jackson is a better receiver than Brandon Powell. So then you maybe cut Brandon Powell because you don't need a punt returner if Jalen Naylor is your punt returner. And that's where I think it's going to come down to this last week of practices. Like I'm looking forward to seeing all the tweets now because of course everybody now is tweeting out videos like they're reporters and they're just dudes sitting at home. But it's one of those things where they're just in the stands and they can now take video because us as credentialed media, we cannot, which sucks. That's horrible. I hate that. Like how can these fans have more video of practice than we do? But it is what it is. Maybe we need to go sit in the stands. That's what I was thinking about. But I'm like, even if I tweet it out from the stands, and they're still gonna be mad. Like,
just put on a fake mustache. No one will know it's Ron Johnson.
Well, I gotta find like a burner account like Kevin Durant. But here's where I go with the locks. And maybe we'll do we'll stick with offense. I'm gonna do defense tomorrow because there's way too many guys.
Yeah.
But my offensive locks, and yeah, that maybe that'll be our Tuesday open. What's our defense? We'll do all offense today. Who are my locks? Of course, I got JJ, Darisaw, Ezra, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, Brian O'Neill, TJ Hawkinson. Now, Ed Ingram's not a complete lock, but at this point, none of these other guards have done anything, but I'm going to go with him. Hawkinson, KJ Osborne, Kirk Cousins, Madison, CJ Ham. That's your 11. Then when you jump over to the backups, I say Blake Brandel because he's the only like guard of between him and Josh Sokol, Jack Snyder. I after that, Austin Sloatman, I think because he's a swing guard center.
Yeah,
I have him in
interior.
there. Just for the interior line. I'm not sold on any of these other offensive linemen, so I'm not going anywhere else from there. Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, I think both of those two have done enough. He's singing the praises of Johnny Munt, so I can't see him just cutting him all of a sudden. Nick Mullins, I don't know about this third quarterback thing, like if they're going to go with two, because we know in the past they've gone with two quarterbacks. Like it just is what it is. They've gone with two, and they have not had a third quarterback. So I'm not sold on Jaren Hall just yet. I think Nick Mullins has done it though. I'm going to go with Ty Chandler, Kene Nwangwu at this point, and then that's it. So like I don't have Jalen Naylor as an absolute lock. I mean, I do technically because I thought about it, but then I'm like, well, this dude's hurt. Like, are we buying in too much into this offseason of like, hey man, he was just great. Like, yeah, but if he's hurt and guys are balling out, how can you as a coach say I'm gonna cut this guy and this hurt guy, I'm gonna keep him? So I think that's the thing, is maybe an IR situation and then keep an extra receiver until they go back.
List.
Yeah, pup
6
list.
weeks.
But I don't have N'Keal Harry, Jalen Reagor, some names that guys know. Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson. I can't put them in as locks. Dwayne McBride. And then Abram Smith. None of those. Nick Muse. Nick Muse has been having a good camp. Blake Pro. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I think it was 11, 12, 13. Of course, Jordan Addison. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I got 18 guys on the offense. I'm guessing they're going to have about 24, depending on special teams. About 20, because, you know, I got the special teams locks, you know, Greg Joseph, Ryan Wright, Andrew DePaula. They're done there. This kick return, punt return, I don't have either of those locked in. Like as of now, they're slated Kene and Jalen Reagor, but that could be anybody. So I got 18 offensive locks. I mean, those are my 18. I like, is there anybody that I did, like, what do you think about that list? Is there anybody on that list that I said is a maybe that maybe you have as a lock?
I think Jaren Hall is a lock. I don't think no matter how rough it looks with him at times, I think they're going to see this through for at least one more year. I just think when you only get 6 draft picks in a class and, you know, you take a quarterback in the 5th round, you're going to try to develop him, especially when Kevin O'Connell is your head coach. He's a quarterback. They're going to give that a little time. So I actually would lock in Jaren Hall. And I would probably lock in someone like Vidarian Lowe. I mean, you need your swing tackle.
Would you pick him over Oli Udoh right now?
Udoh struggled so much in the game, and Vidarian Lowe did not. I guess I like Lowe a little bit more because he's younger.
Right.
But that your swing tackle is a question mark to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a lock.
That's why Vidarian Lowe and Oli Udoh, I think this is the week to watch them now. I think they're going to get a ton of snaps. These joint practices as well, because I think they're probably thinking the same thing. Like, do we need to bring another tackle in? Like, you know, it feel like Oli Udoh, like the last couple of years, has just gotten the nod because he's the only thing left. It's almost like, you know, I wouldn't pick him if we had a bunch of guys, but there's only guy left, so I'm gonna pick him. And his off the field stuff too, it does not help his case out. Like when you're getting holding penalties and everybody's watching you because you're the guy in the backfield with the defensive lineman, and then you stare at the referee like, what? I didn't do it. Like, that's not a great start to this, you know, that game for him. And so this whole week, I think, is going to be key for everybody watching him. But we got to move on to the Gophers in the second segment. It's Gopher football season, people. PJ Flex Show starting this Thursday at the State Fair. We will be at the booth. Just find us. The PJ Flex Show normally airs on Fox 9, but you can check it out. You know, at the State Fair live. You can come see PJ. You can come see the Gophers players. I got a surprise for my wife. It's actually her birthday, so I got to work all day on her birthday, doing sports, doing football stuff, jumping out. Like, I'm going from the PJ Flex Show. Then I'm gonna try to head out quick to I mean, Sam, you're gonna tell me at some point what time training camp starts, but I'm gonna try to get over there quick enough if it's not too late to see a little bit of it. If not, then I got to do it Wednesday. But we are going to talk a little Gopher football and what storylines we're most interested in this season coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show. But before we do that, we have a word from our sponsors.
It's a FanDuel Monday here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Let me tell you what FanDuel has going on. They've always got great promotions at FanDuel. And this is the latest promotion that we've been talking to you about for a couple weeks. Football season's here. You can win all season long by simply placing a Super Bowl futures wager. That's right. Look at the list of 32 teams. Find one that you think is going to win the Super Bowl. But also keep in mind, who's going to win a lot of games during the regular season? Because whenever that team wins, you get bonus bets back in your account, and you can spend that free money on whatever, spreads, player props, over-unders, other future bets. So many ways to wager at FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook app is very safe, secure, and easy to use. You can also visit the website, FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start earning those bonus bets today with America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, make every moment more.
Well, Sam, it's Gopher football season as well. August 31st, the Gophers will kick off against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And it's a new season for Nebraska. There's no more Scott Frost. I'm going to miss Scott Frost. Scott Frost was the best thing that ever happened to us in Minnesota. I'm not going to lie. Like, he was awesome. Loved every bit of his terribleness. Loved every bit of his making players throw up and players hating him. Loved every bit of it being freezing cold in the rain and the snow in Minnesota. It was like sleet, I guess you want to call it. And he thought the players were too worried about where their hoodies were for warmups. Like, I remember the presser after that game, and that's what he said. Like, I can't believe it. Like, players were in the locker room looking for hand warmers and hoodies. And, when I played, and then literally though, the funniest, I love the edit. And I don't know if the person who edited this for I think it was a Nebraska guy, Nebraska TV show station. The way they edited it did not look great, because then the edit showed him on the field breathing out cold air. So you had and he had on gloves, a hoodie, a hat, and he had a jacket. It's like, you can't sit up here and bash your players for trying to be warm, and you look like a little kid. And he did zip his jacket up, so maybe that was the toughness in him. Like, I'm not gonna zip this up. I'm gonna keep it open. But it just was a horrible post-game presser, because he was like, the players are so worried about how cold it was and where their hoodies were. Like, we used to go out there shirtless. Okay, what are you trying? So that was like, players weren't happy with that. He called them out and blah, blah. So he's gone now. But now we move on to Matt Rule. And as the Gophers head into this game against Nebraska, it's the unknown game. Like, the first game of the year is always the unknown. And I'd say more so of both teams. You don't know what Matt Rule's been doing. College football, there's no preseason, so we can't see it. There's no joint practices. There's not even like videotape practice. They literally don't allow, like, they are worse than the pros. There's no footage besides a couple pregame, like, warm-up snaps things and all. That's it. Like, they don't have an off-season OTAs where you can see one-on-ones, you can see players make play. Like, there's nothing. You see a couple of highlights that they want to put out, like the Gophers have done at their night practices and their stadium practices for the fans. And so they put it out there because they know the fans are seeing it. So they might as well put some highlights out there. But they have the same rules, I think, even for their fans. Like, hey, like, we want to hide this from the world, people. So let's be a team. But when you think about this story, here's where the opening storyline for this season for me. Mm-hmm. Who is Ethan Karl-Anthony? I was going to say, with the real Ethan Karl-Anthony, please stand up. I like that one too. But who is Ethan Karl-Anthony? Who is he? What is he going to be? Is he this guy that we saw that was raw behind Tanner Morgan, that when he came in, he had no cares? Because, like, look, he has a concussion. So the guy behind me, I'm not worried about the third quarterback, so I'm going to just go out here and have some fun. Now you're the guy. You're the guy that has to lead the team. You're the captain. You're the voice in the huddle. So I want to see who Ethan Karl-Anthony is. I mean, you got Corey Crooms, you got Crab, you got LeMacky Brockington, you got Brevin Spann-Ford. You have some really good weapons offensively. Really good weapons offensively. The run game, you don't have a Mo Ibram. So, like, Zach Evans. You got Jordan Dubin. Kind of a two-headed monster. But you don't have a Mo Ibram. You don't have a Bucky Irving. You don't have that. You don't have all the Kai, the Kai Thomases. You don't have what you used to have. You got a new regime in that backfield. So what is Ethan Karl-Anthony? Who is Ethan Karl-Anthony? And what is he going to be? week one, we're going to find, I'm looking forward to it. I already got the 3 to 5 p.m. stream show they talked about. And then our pregame show is, I think, 5 to 6. And then kickoffs at 7 or 5:30 to 7 maybe or something. I don't know. It's a busy. I know it's going to be a busy Thursday. Back-to-back Thursdays, my wife's birthday, and then the PJ Flex show to kick it off. And then I'm going to be at the State Fair twice. And then we got the pregame show. Thank goodness it's not at the State Fair. We did that one year. We did the pregame show from the State Fair. Then we had to hustle over to the stadium for kickoff. Thank goodness we're not doing that. That was the worst. But we are doing the pregame show from the field, like from right outside the stadium. So hopefully we can join us. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Sam, because I don't know what this team's going to be. Like that's the key. I think the key is going to come down to Ethan. Who is Ethan Kellick-Manus? But I don't know. What's some stories you want to hear about?
Yeah, well, I'll talk more about Ethan. The resume that he built last year, he won 4 out of his last 5 games.
True.
But the stats were not great. He was carried by his running game, defense, offensive line. I need to see a lot more accuracy from him. And I think that, would you agree with this, Ron? He has to have taken a big step as a quarterback from what we saw last year for the Gophers to be an 8 or more win team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I talked about some of his things he does, like his pump fake. Because I talked to PJ Fleck about this, and Ethan, like if you're a quarterback like this and you pump, most DBs are like, oh, that's just a pump. You do this, and they're like, oh, separate, that's my key. Like when he separates, he's got to throw it. So Ethan kind of separates, but then it's like a backyard thing. It's like, it's just, to me, it's like, if you're going to separate, then still just do the shoulder. He's got to get like little mechanics down. He's got to get some of the little intricacies down. The other reason why quarterbacks keep 2 hands on the cane for pump is like, if a guy gets beat on your blind side or up the middle quick and you don't have time and you don't realize it, you might, if you get hit, you're fumbling. This, and then you take one, and we've seen quarterbacks take it, you probably can hold on to the ball. So that's the other part of it too, but that's a small part of the game. Pre-throw, blah, blah. As far as like actually throwing the ball, running the ball, yeah, he's a little bit more athletic than Tanner Morgan. We remember that. He can run. Because in this read option, Tanner Morgan never ran, like never. Ethan is probably going to run a little bit more. But yeah, I think he has to be extremely accurate. Like you think about, again, Brevin Spann-Ford has a huge catch radius. I think Brevin Spann-Ford, and I guess I'm giving my keys away a little bit, but this is going to be one of my keys to the game, but also my PJ Flex show, show guy. They said pick one guy. I'm picking Brevin Spann-Ford because I think when you look at the NFL, Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, most of the teams with top tight ends, that's their outlet. Look at Iowa. Iowa is terrible, but they had great tight ends the last couple of years. And so I think that's kept them like afloat, like where they're staying in games. I think Minnesota can thrive and not just stay afloat because their defense is good, like Iowa, but I think their offense is better than Iowa. So I think Minnesota, this is the year Minnesota can beat Iowa, but they have to figure out a way to get over that hump. But yeah, for me, it's Ethan Kellick-Manus. How quick can he get going? How convincing can he be to the team? He's the leader. Because it's been like, I feel like it's been Tanner forever. And that's the problem now, is like we're moving into a new era that we're not used to the last 6 years. That's a long time. Normally you get 3 years of a quarterback. We got 6. That's a long time. So I think that's going to be the key to this is what do we get out of Ethan? But but you know what? We got to jump into the daily 3. That's 3 questions, about 30 seconds each. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. We want everybody to know SiriusXM is a proud partner of Locked On Sports Minnesota. You can just visit the SiriusXM app on your app market. Just search SXM app or SiriusXM. You'll find the app. Make sure you download it. And then if you do not have an account, it'll give you some options, but you can create an account. You can also search Locked On Sports Minnesota within the SiriusXM app, and you can take us with you in the gym. All of our shows right there with you in your ear while you're on the Stairmaster. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Now it's time for the daily 3. That's 3 questions. We're going to take about 30 seconds each today. Take it away, Sam.
All right, this is going to be a quarterback edition because we've got some good quarterback storylines from the NFL. So number 1, Brock Purdy is back. He debuted for the San Francisco 49ers after going undefeated last year as their quarterback. Where would you rank Brock Purdy in the QB power rankings after his 6-0 rookie performance?
So we're talking power rankings for the entire NFL.
Yeah.
I can't put him in the top 10. I don't personally think I could put him in the top 20 if you think about Kirk Cousins being up there. Top 15, sorry. I would say, like, the tough thing is after 6 games, we don't really know if this is the Kyle Shanahan thing or if this is really him. But I would say he's earned his way at least into like 20 range, like 2020, or sorry, 2020, 20 to 19, like somewhere in there, because I for sure think like Jordan Love and some of those guys are below him, Baker Mayfield. But, you know, I don't think he's better than like, you know, because that middle group was Dak, Kirk, Deshaun Watson. Like I wouldn't put it, but I put him ahead of Kyler Murray. Like at this point, I put him ahead of Kyler Murray. And so that's where, you know, you have to, like Jared Goff. I'd say Jared Goff is a little bit better than Brock Purdy, proven better than Brock Purdy. So that's why I say I can't, because I think Jared Goff is in that 14, 15, 16 range. I think, you know, Trevor Lawrence for sure is ahead of him. So there's some guys. I'd say in the 20s, like he's in the low 20s to maybe 19, but that's where I'd put him right now.
Yeah, it just bugged me how every ranking seemed to put him in the lowest tier this offseason, and I think he deserves better than that. He played almost half a season's worth of games and never lost until he got hurt. So I'd put him right up there as well. All right, number 2, the Colts chose not to start rookie Anthony Richardson in their preseason game against the Bears over the weekend. Do you agree with that decision to rest a rookie who really doesn't have any reps in the NFL?
No, I don't agree with it. I personally, especially if you know, you've already named him week 1 starter, so I know maybe they're trying to treat him like a vet. We don't see what practice, but yeah, I would give him some NFL snaps. Like, and the problem though is too, and this is the key, this is the problem. You can't put him out there if you don't have your number 1 line now, because you're like, well, look, he's our number 1 for sure, and our number 1 line's not going. So if I don't have Quentin Nelson and all these guys out there with him, are we setting him up to fail? And I think maybe that's their thought, is like, let's give him week 1. Let's give him a number 1 line. Maybe Jonathan Taylor comes back and is ready to go. But at that point, he has the full bevy of weapons. He has the full offensive line. He has the full playbook, because right now it's very vanilla. So maybe they've seen enough. Maybe they've seen enough of him in practice. So yeah, no, but I don't agree. I feel like the rookies need to get, like, if you're going to be a week 1 starter, you got to feel the speed of this game a little bit. It's not as fast because you don't have the ones on defense. But yeah, I would have put him out there. I mean, you got Pat Mahomes going at least a couple series. Like, why wouldn't Anthony Richardson go?
All right, one more. Malik Willis got pretty much the whole game on Saturday for the Titans. Will Levis got hurt. Ryan Tannehill was resting. And we saw Willis enjoying practices as well. After what you saw, Ron, do you think Malik Willis has a future as a starter in the league from what you observed?
Yeah, so PFF has the quarterback rankings that came out. I don't know if you saw that recently. And when you go out and start with 12, because we know, or 11 even, we know Dak, Kirk. They put Dak, Kirk, Trevor Lawrence in the top 10 with Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, and then you can figure out the rest because they're the best, those 3. But if you go down to Tua at 11, Stafford at 12, Deshaun at 13, 14 is Derek Carr, 15 is Geno Smith, 16 is Jared Goff, Daniel Jones 17, Justin Fields at 18, Ryan Tannehill at 19, Russell Wilson at 20. See, here's where, like they got Mac Jones at 21. That's where I would throw in like a Brock Purdy. Like, I think Russell Wilson is too low. I think he should be ahead of Justin Fields. That's just me personally. But again, this is probably recency bias from rankings of last year. You got Kenny Pickett. They got Brock Purdy at 23. I think Purdy should be ahead of Pickett. I think he's done more. But again, we're going to see the full go. You got Jimmy Garoppolo, Bryce Young, Jordan Love, and then of course these are all unproven guys. Sam Howell, Baker Mayfield is, he's definitely not unproven. You got Colt McCoy, probably going to be the starter over Kyler Murray, they're saying. But who knows? And then CJ Stroud, Desmond Ridder, and then Anthony Richardson at 32. When you think about those names, could he be one of these guys? Yes. I think he could be Colt McCoy. I think he could be Baker Mayfield. I think he could be a Sam Howell. We don't know what Jordan Love is, so I'm not going to disrespect Jordan Love like that. But those names right there, I think like, not saying the Vikings defense was not great, but it wasn't bad. I think he could be one of these guys. Like, I think eventually, like if a team picks him up, like the Arizona Cardinals, he could compete for the starting job there. The whole Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he can compete for a starting job there. So yes, I think he could. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Right now he's kind of I think he's in a competition with Levis to maybe be the Ryan Tannehill successor next year. We don't know about Tannehill's longevity there. I don't know. I don't think Willis looked great in the game, but also these games are not set up for quarterbacks to succeed. Like, they're not running their real stuff. Backup receivers, backup offensive line. It's so vanilla that I don't think they can really stand out that much. Correct. He can move so well It's fun to watch him. And from the reports I heard from Tennessee, he's really gotten better in year 2. So I think that he could be on the right track. We'll see if he can beat out Levis, and that'll kind of be telling as to who the backup is in Tennessee this year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, because this is going to be fun to watch. But again, I just truly believe that Malik Willis, like he looked athletic. I mean, I just think he needs a system like a Justin Fields, maybe like a Jalen Hurts, something that's built for him. Tannehill's offense used to have a little bit more run to it, but now I think they've even said it similar to Josh Allen, like, hey, I'm not going to run as much. I do want to run, but like, hey, let's be smart about this. And I think that's where Tannehill, as he gets older now, it's kind of, because when he was younger, he was running the crap out the ball. He was known as a running quarterback. Now he's not as much anymore. Not a running quarterback, sorry, but a quarterback that was willing to run, but not as much anymore. Now he's more of in the pocket guy, handoff to Derrick Henry guy. But that just comes with age. Just he's not as fast as he used to be. But yeah, I think Malik Willis definitely could be a starter in this league at some point. There's going to be a place for him if he sticks around and does well. He could be who knows? Tannehill might move on and Malik takes over there. But I think Will Levis, maybe they like him, and Willis could end up with the Buccaneers. Who knows? But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Thank you guys that continue to watch, download, like, share. Please tell everybody. Season's coming. It's going to get bigger and better as we go on this season. We're always going to break down the game on Mondays. Monday morning quarterback with Ron and Sam, or Monday. We're going to come up with a title for it, guys. Tweet it to us if you have one. But Monday morning breakdown. I don't know, something like that. But we're going to have a lot of fun this season, because now this is a new season, new receivers, Jordan Addison, KOC second year. Last year was a lot of KOC. He's surprising us. Now there's no surprises with KOC. Now we need to see some genuine wins. Hopefully we're not looking at a 13-4 season again, and they've won every game by one score, because we know Peter Bukowski would never let the Vikings live that down. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. You can download our show, Locked On Sports Minnesota, on Amazon Fire, Roku, and SiriusXM Radio. I want you guys to have a great day and enjoy it.